He gives you the cash, he so does give you the cash. He will get money from his videos, he will do what he can. My name is StarkyBooty32, and I have some good news that I'd like to share with you all, and this is in relation to the coronavirus. Now, usually there's some bad news when I tend to talk about COVID, whether it's about the cases from the pandemic or the restrictions and lockdowns that we've been put through, but now something great is coming, which is a very significant moment at this time, and it's probably now the very end of COVID as we speak. Before we get into this, I'd just like to say that I recently reached 200 subscribers on my channel. Last year I reached the milestone of 100 subscribers, and within 11 months after that I had reached 200 subscribers. So to everyone who is a subscriber of mine, I'd like to thank you for making me reach this far within a year from my previous milestone. I really appreciate that, and all of you are such good fans. But anyway, back to the main topic of this video. As I said at the start, I have some good news about the coronavirus that I'd just like to share with you all, and I think that at this very time the pandemic is coming to an end as we know it. As for how the vaccinations are going worldwide, they are going very great. A lot of countries in the world have over 40% of their population vaccinated, which are specifically countries in the Americas, Europe, some of Asia and Oceania. The countries which have the highest number of vaccines, over 70%, include Singapore, Malaysia, Cambodia, the UAE, Qatar, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, Denmark, Ireland, Uruguay, Chile and Canada. They also updated the map of the vaccinations that you can search for on Google, and they had made some of the countries over 40% a lighter green, while the ones over 70% are a very dark green, like they were before when they were over 40%. Finally, Australia has now caught up with countries in North America and Europe, and we now have nearly 60% of our population vaccinated, because for the first few months we only had like 10 to 20% of our population vaccinated, but now I'm glad we have finally caught up with other countries in the world. And not just Australia, but a lot of countries in South America have gotten as much as North America and Europe, as well as a few countries in Asia. The continent with the least number of vaccinations is Africa, with most African countries having less than 5% of their population vaccinated, but Africa is a continent which is plagued with poverty, so that really doesn't surprise me that they don't have much people vaccinated there. I myself got a vaccination with 2 doses of Pfizer, and I am fully safe and vaccinated from the coronavirus. Although I did hear something of vax passports that you need to bring with you if you want to travel internationally, but I don't think we'll need them in the next year or so, as we should learn to live with COVID rather than continue the conundrum of panic over this virus. Something special to note is that in Victoria, in Australia, the restrictions have now eased and we are no longer in lockdown. They were lifted just recently on Friday, and when that happened, most people in Melbourne began to party and celebrate so much that they were blocking the streets and dancing on the roads. But this wasn't a usual lift of restrictions, however. It wasn't a usual time when lockdown ends, as we have experienced throughout the pandemic, but this was literally the final lockdown in Melbourne. Now that this lockdown has been lifted, we don't need any more lockdowns, because there are enough people vaccinated in Melbourne, and we also have enough people vaccinated in Australia, and that's why everyone was over celebrating, because now we will no longer have our Premier Dan Andrews to boss us all around. I'm also recording this video on Sunday, and tomorrow I will be going back to school again, and I'm glad that I won't be in remote learning learning anymore. Although I did hear that at my school, the year 7 to 10s have some days on site and some days of remote learning, but I'm in year 11 and the year 11 to 12s are always going to be on site, so I think I'm lucky because of that. It's currently late October, and what I've noticed is that the vaccination rate in Australia is 0.5% to 1% daily, and we nearly have 60% of our population vaccinated. So by about late November and early December, we will have most of our population vaccinated, and Australia will open its borders to the rest of the world, and we will finally be able to travel again, and there will be no more restrictions. It would also not surprise me if in December everyone is very celebratory around Christmas and New Year's Eve, because we'll have no more restrictions and we'll be partying hard once we have freedom again. And now I'm as excited as everyone else in the world is at the moment, and I'm finally glad we are finally beating the coronavirus into the ground. We have been in a pandemic with tough restrictions for almost 2 years as if it's a war, and I would most definitely consider it a war, a biological war of illness that everyone can write in the history books and look back on with how the beginning of the 2020s was a horrid time marked with the pandemic of a virus that sprawled out from China. I'm so glad I have survived this war. I'm glad we are about to win the war, and I'm glad that we are nearing the light at the end of the tunnel and are going back to our peaceful and prominent lives that we had once before. The coronavirus is dying and we are emerging victorious, and let's hope that there's no other pandemic like it that can bother us and fight us in our lifetime ever again. We have had enough, and we deserve this long permanent break from COVID, as it's never going to boss us around again after we finish it off with the rest of the people who need to be vaccinated. In 2022, I'm planning on going on holidays, and I'll spend some time out in the world discovering some wonders and living a life of freedom and prosperity. I hope you all can join me on this journey as we leave behind the wreck and dead decomposing molecules of that virus that thought it could have fun with us. Now is a time of celebration, and then we can have a time of peace, and I'll see you all there once that time comes.